Hello everyone, it's Mary. Welcome back to the channel for our Saturday craft day with Kraftgali. We're going to be pulling out this Concord and 9th City Stacks stamp, and we're going to be playing with some backgrounds and using it in a tiny bit of a different way, and it's going to be a whole lot of fun. I need to reel in my rainbow ink blend in Love and Heart because I'm so excited. Alright, so I'm going to start with Distress Oxides, and I've picked these 4 colors. I'm going to be using some makeup brushes to put down my color. I sped this up quite a bit. It did not take that long, but it's also literally watching paint dry when it's in real time, and I figure you get the idea. But I wanted to keep it all in there, so that is the intent behind speeding it up. So I started to put down this color, and I know my Wilted Violet, I use it the most, so I know it's dry. So I need to re-ink that for sure. But I'm going to make it work as best I can here. And then I'm just going to add this blue color. So at first, when you start ink blending, it's like, no, this does not look good. This is just splotchy and messy. And how do you get that smooth blend? Well, it takes a couple times of going over it. So if you want a more pastel look, you have to use more pastel colors, because it's going to be very difficult to get a light look when you're using vibrancy like this. So I just go back and forth over and over. If I find, see, I realized I was leaving fingerprints, so I had to put that little post-it note right over my fingers. Just be careful when you do that, because as I had it over the blue, it picks up ink onto the post-it note. And then I switched over to the yellow, and the yellow got transferred. The blue got transferred to the yellow, which was fine because it's opaque ink. I can just cover it again, but just for your information. So again, you see how I'm doing this. I'm just going back and forth and smoothing out with each of those colors. If I get a harsh line one way, then I'm going to go back and fix it. So I get that ink blended to the way I like it. I'm going to water this down, and then I'm going to pick up another one. Now, I forgot to say I'm using Bristol Smooth cardstock, and I'm going to use Bristol for both of these backgrounds. I had not intended on using this background right away. I just like to pick up ink because I don't like to waste it, and I put it aside, and I'll use that background another day. But I ended up loving the way that these rainbow colors were coming together, because they were mixing, and so they were making additional colors in the rainbow. So I put that aside for a minute, and I'm going to come back to that. For this one, I am going to use the Skyscrapers from the stamp set, and I'm going to use some Versafine Clair. I use Versafine Clair because it's this is the Nocturne ink. It's very stark black, and it's a really crisp image to put over the heavy ink that I just used. So I've been asked that question, and this is my favorite to use over oxides. The better thing to do, like one step above, would be to heat emboss it with clear embossing powder, and then you'll get this really dark, black, shiny city. However, my panel was not dry, and I didn't want to take that risk, and so you can heat set it. I just didn't. I just left it and did not emboss it, but that's an option. So I'm going to go, and you see how I'm masking off with some of that label tape there, just so that I don't cross over into my city, my skyscrapers. Pull that off, and then I realized there was a line missing in the stamp because I had masked it. So I just take a marker, a fine line marker, and I just draw it down. And the great thing about that stamp set is they're not perfectly drawn skyscrapers, so my shaky hand as I was drawing it was just fine. I'm going to put the sentiment up there, and that card is almost done. Now we're going to go back to this background because I thought, I might be able to do something with this. So I added a few more colors, and this is the story of my life. I pick up ink so I don't waste it, which causes me to use more ink. So I just have accepted it. That's what's going to happen. So I'm adding down, and I'm getting these colors the way I like them. I'm picking up as much as I can, and then I am going to continue the process. I love the way this is coming together. It's just so pretty. These colors, and they don't really look chalky. Normally the oxides look a bit chalky, but these came out really vibrant. Not sure why, or maybe maybe I'm seeing things. So I'm using this blue and yellow, which of course is going to give us a nice pretty green effect. And I felt like that card was just missing that little bit of the green touch, and this did it perfectly. So I'm pretty much done with that background. I'm happy with it. I do heat set it, but I'm going to add some shimmer. So I take out my shimmer spritz, and I am going to just spray this down. I get a lot of dots of liquid on there, so I'm going to pick that up with a paper towel. And I tried to choose the clean pieces of the paper towel so that I don't cross-contaminate inks and get other inks pieces where I don't want them. I'm going to heat set that. Now you can see this is getting nice and warped because it's Bristol Smooth. It's not watercolor cardstock. But I'm then going to take my stamp, and this time I'm using the hillside with the trees, and I'm going to stamp that out again. Not again. I'm actually switched to Memento Tuxedo Black ink, and the reason is because I'm going to use some alcohol markers. So that was my choice for that. Once I get that done, I am going to just take a full-on black, this is a 120 marker from Master Markers. It's an alcohol brush nib, and I am going to color in my entire image. So this is one of those little tricks you can do if you don't have time for coloring, you don't want to color, you don't like to color. But there's an image that you like that you think would be a great silhouette on your card or your project. And this is exactly what I did here. I thought if I tried to color these or add more to this card, I was going to take away from that background. And that was not my intent. My intent was to let that background do the talking. And so with that little bit of a silhouette added, I feel like it was just the right touch to get a nice little image there. I'm also extending the stamp with my marker just by adding a little bit of that fun accent. Now the grass is not perfectly, the hill is not perfect, so I'm kind of making those little lines with my marker all the way down. And now I have a full-on silhouette piece to my card. I'm going to trim this down slightly with my tonic trimmer. I recently got this trimmer, I talked about it briefly, and I love it. I love that I can use the side closest to me because there's a lip that will hold my card. Honestly, that's the greatest feature because I can actually see what I'm doing and not get my head in the way. I'm going to use this sentiment here, and I'm going to stamp that down. And I do use Versafine Clair Nocturne ink for the sentiment because, again, great ink. It's awesome. And once that's complete, my cards are done. So now I just have to put them on my card base. I'm going to show you here off to the side how you can also clean up your makeup brushes. I just spritzed some water on my craft mat and rubbed my makeup brush into it and then took a microfiber cloth to dry it or clean it off, the rest of it. You could wash them with soap and water in the sink. You could just use a microfiber cloth, whatever floats your boat and tickles your fancy. I'm going to take my card base here, which is a Nina 110 Solar White. I'm going to score it at 5.5 to make a top folding A2 size card. Now, I'm going to put down my first panel here with some art glitter glue. 99.9% of the time when I do this, I make sure when I'm placing down my card panel, right before I put it down to the panel, I pick up the card base and I open it because I want to make sure that it's facing the correct way. 99.9% of the time. Did you hear? And this was the 0.1%. I did not do that. I put it on backwards and upside down. So that would be actually a really fun card to get. However, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to just trim down the other side. I'll use that other piece for something. And I'm going to redo it. So now I don't have to line it up with anything. It's exactly, did you see I checked that time? See, this is why I cannot trust myself in the craft room. I just have to continue to do as I always do. All right, so now I'm just going to place down my other one, and that will finish up these two cards. I didn't add anything additional to this card. I wanted to try to keep them as flat as possible for mailing, make it nice and easy to send them out. So no embellishments here, just focusing on some of those distressed oxide backgrounds and some of that beautiful blend that you can get with those inks and the makeup brushes, and then a little bit of an added element with the silhouette. So thanks so much for stopping by and for hanging out with us. I'll list what we used below in this video, and don't forget to head over to Kraftgali, check out what she has in the store. Always great stuff, and I will see you all in the next video. Have a fantastic week. Bye-bye.